My wife cheated on me with her boss, and now she's claiming I stole $200, $0 from our joint account to hide her affair. But it turns out she's been secretly planning to take everything from me, including the house, and I just found out she's already started transferring assets. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Thank you very much. Now let's begin the video, using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how my wife, Lisa, turned out to be exactly what I feared. The thing is, I caught her cheating on me with her boss, Mark. Yeah, Mark. The guy she always said was just a friend, but I found out he's been sleeping with her for months. And the crazy part, she's trying to make me look like the bad guy, claiming I stole $200, $0 from our joint account to hide her affair. I swear, it feels like my whole world is crumbling, but honestly I saw this coming long before I caught her. I met Lisa when I was in college. She was the perfect girl, smart, beautiful, ambitious. We got married pretty young, and for a while things seemed fine. We had a nice house, good jobs, and a kid on the way. But over the last year I started noticing little things. She was more secretive with her phone, started working late more often, and her attitude towards me shifted. She got bitchy for no reason, snapping at me over small stuff, and she stopped wanting to be intimate. At first, I thought maybe I was just imagining things or stressed out about work, but deep down I knew something was off. Then about 3 months ago, I started noticing strange charges on our bank statement. Small at first, lunches with her boss, some hotel charges, nothing huge. But then the amount started climbing and I saw a pattern. She was transferring money from our joint account into some private account I'd never heard of. I confronted her about it and she brushed it off, said it was for some business investment she was doing on her own. I didn't buy it, but I didn't have proof. Still, I felt uneasy. I'd ask her questions and she'd get defensive, calling me paranoid or jealous. That's when I started snooping more, going through her emails and messages. One night, I decided to check her phone while she was in the shower. I was just trying to see if I could find some proof, and I did. Texts between her and Mark, explicit conversations about their sex life, plans to meet up after work. It hit me like a punch in the stomach. I felt betrayed, furious, and completely numb at the same time. I couldn't believe she'd been lying to me for so long. The woman I thought I knew had been sneaking around, lying about everything and planning her escape route. The next day, I confronted her. I had the evidence in hand, and I was ready to blow up her whole world. I told her I knew about the affair, showed her the messages, and demanded an explanation. Her reaction, she laughed, a cold, bitchy laugh. Oh, so now you're accusing me of cheating. You're just jealous because I don't want to sleep with your boring ass anymore. She denied everything at first, then tried to turn it around, saying I was just paranoid and insecure, but I wasn't buying her bullshit. I was furious. How could she lie so blatantly? How could she pretend she was innocent when I had proof right in front of me? The emotional roller coaster was brutal. I felt hurt, angry, and disgusted. For days, I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I kept replaying everything in my head, her sneaking around, her lies, the way she looked at me like I was the problem. I started to doubt myself, wondering if I'd missed the signs or if I'd somehow caused this. But deep down, I knew I hadn't. She made her choice, and I was just the fool who trusted her. I felt betrayed not just by her infidelity but by her lies and the way she was trying to manipulate me into thinking I was crazy. I decided I couldn't stay in this marriage anymore. Not after what I found out, but I also knew I had to be smart about it. She's already started transferring assets, big sums of money, the house, everything she could get her hands on. I found out she's been secretly planning to take everything from me, including the house we bought together. She's been talking to lawyers, preparing to cut me out completely. It's like she's been plotting this for months, and I was just too blind to see it. I realize now that her affair was just part of her bigger plan. She wanted to be free to take what she thought was hers without any real consequences. So here I am trying to piece everything together. I feel completely shattered, betrayed, and furious. I don't know what's worse, the fact that she cheated or that she's been planning to screw me over financially all along. I want to fight back, but I don't even know where to start. I'm just trying to keep my head above water and figure out the next move. One thing's for sure, I won't be a pushover, not this time. I'll fight for what's mine, and I'll make damn sure she doesn't walk away with everything. After I confronted Lisa with the evidence, everything changed overnight. She didn't even try to deny it. At first, just looked at me with that smirk like she thought she was untouchable. Her words, though, they cut deeper than I expected. She kept insisting I was just jealous, insecure, that Mark was nothing but a mistake, and that I was overreacting. She spun these bullshit stories about how she was just stressed, that she needed someone to talk to vent to. Yeah, right. Venting with her boss behind my back while I was out working my ass off every day. That's real mature. But what really got me was her tone, bitchy, dismissive, like I was the problem. You're always so paranoid, John. Maybe if you spent less time obsessing over my phone and more time being a real man, you'd understand. That's when I realized she was trying to gaslight me. She wanted me to doubt myself, to think I was just imagining things. And honestly, it worked for a while. I started questioning whether I was just insecure or if I'd missed signs. But then I remembered the bank statements, the transfers, the texts. I knew I wasn't crazy. The emotional fallout was intense. I felt betrayed, yes, but also humiliated. How could she do this to us, to our kid? I'd always thought we had a solid marriage, a partnership. Turns out it was just a facade. She'd been planning her escape for months, quietly siphoning money, making deals behind my back. I found out she'd already transferred a significant chunk of our savings into her own account, and she was in the process of transferring the house's title to her name. I could see it happening in real time, like I was watching her steal everything I worked for. I knew I had to act fast. I contacted my lawyer the very same day, and we started pulling together evidence. I also hired a private investigator to verify some of the details. The more I dug, the more I realized she'd been lying about her intentions. She'd been planning this for a while. She'd even started looking for new places to live, new investments to make, all without telling me. It was like she'd already mentally checked out, and I was just some obstacle she needed to get rid of. One night, I caught her trying to transfer the deed of the house. I walked into the office just as she was about to sign the papers. She froze when she saw me, her face twisting into that bitchy smirk again. "What are you doing, John? Just some paperwork, nothing to worry about," she said, trying to act innocent. I told her I knew everything about Mark, the money, the house, and that I'd be damned if she took everything I helped build. That was the moment I knew I had to take control. I called the lawyer right then and there, told her she wasn't getting away with this. Not on my watch. The thing is, I felt like I was in a nightmare. All those years I put into the marriage, into our family, and she was just plotting her escape, taking everything she could get. It was a gut punch. I kept thinking about the nights she'd ignored me, the times she snapped at me for no reason, and now it all made sense. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. It was like she'd been hiding her true self from the start, pretending to be the loving wife while secretly scheming to run off with her boss and my money. Now, I was left with a mess, documents to review, assets to recover, and a shattered sense of trust. I felt angry, but I also felt helpless. How do you fight someone who's already one step ahead? I had no choice but to be smart, to protect what's mine, and to prepare for the worst. I was ready to go to court, to fight her for everything she'd tried to steal from me. I realized I couldn't trust her anymore, not even a little bit. She'd shown her true colors, and I was determined not to let her walk away with the prize. The most shocking part, even after all this, she still insists she's the victim, that I'm the one who's paranoid, that I'm just jealous because she's more successful than me now. She's already started spinning her lies to our friends and family, trying to make me look like the bad guy. But I know the truth. I saw her plans, I uncovered her lies, and I refuse to let her get away with it. This isn't just about money anymore. It's about stopping her from destroying everything we built. I'm not going down without a fight. The more I delved into her plans, the clearer it became. How deep her betrayal went. She'd been orchestrating this for months, maybe even longer. I found emails and text messages between her and her lawyer, discussing how to transfer assets without raising suspicion. She'd already started moving money into offshore accounts, and I caught wind of her trying to set up a new bank account in her sister's name, just in case I got wise. It was like she was preparing for a clean getaway, and I was just stumbling into her trap. I started feeling sick every time I thought about how she'd been lying to me every single day. She told me she was working late, going to business dinners, but behind my back she was meeting Mark, planning her escape and siphoning off our savings. She even had the nerve to call me paranoid when I confronted her about the transfers. "You're crazy, John. You think I'd do something like that? You're just insecure." That's when I realized she was trying to gaslight me into silence. She knew I was catching on, and she was desperate to hide her tracks. I couldn't just sit around waiting for her to finish the job. I contacted a forensic accountant, someone who could trace the money, and a lawyer who specialized in asset protection. We needed to freeze her accounts, stop her from transferring anything else, and start legal proceedings. I was furious. How could she do this? We built a life together, and now she was trying to wipe me out. I felt betrayed, not just as her husband, but as a man who thought he knew his partner. How do you rebuild trust after something like this? I didn't know if I could, but I sure as hell wasn't going to let her take everything without a fight. While all this was happening, she kept up her act. She'd come home pretending everything was fine, acting like I was overreacting. She'd throw little jabs, accuse me of being controlling or jealous, all the while sneaking around, transferring assets and plotting her next move. It was surreal. I'd catch her sneaking her phone into her purse, texting someone, probably her lawyer or Mark, making sure everything was still on track. I started to realize she'd been lying to everyone, even her own family. She told her sister she was just stressed at work, while behind the scenes she was planning her big escape. I got a hold of some of her bank statements, and the numbers were staggering. She'd already moved hundreds of thousands into accounts I didn't even know existed. The house was next. She'd been talking with her lawyer about transferring the deed to her sister's name, so I couldn't claim my share. I felt like I'd been sucker punched. All those years of trust, of thinking she was the one, and it turns out she'd been plotting to take everything I had. I started to see her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who was willing to destroy our life for her own gain. One night I caught her trying to access our joint account from her laptop. She was just about to initiate the transfer of the house deed. I lost my temper. I told her if she even tried, I'd go straight to the police and get a court order to freeze all her assets. She just smirked and said, "You're too late, John. I've already started the process. You're just too blind to see it." That's when I knew I had to act fast. I called my lawyer, told him everything, and we immediately filed for a restraining order. I had to stop her before she took everything, before she could slip away with the house, the savings, and whatever else she thought she deserved. The thing that really stung was how she kept insisting she was innocent, that I was crazy for accusing her of anything. "I love you, John," she said with a fake smile, "but you're just insecure. Maybe you should see a therapist." Yeah, right. The woman who's been cheating on me, planning her escape, and stealing from our joint account is suddenly the victim. I couldn't believe her audacity. She's lying to everyone, spinning her web of bullshit, and I was just supposed to sit here and accept it. Not a chance. Honestly, I've never felt so betrayed in my life. The woman I married, the woman I thought was my partner, turned out to be the biggest manipulator I've ever known. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I realized I'd been living in a bubble, ignoring the signs because I didn't want to believe the worst. Now that I saw everything clearly, I knew I had to fight for what's mine. I've started gathering evidence for a divorce, and I don't plan on letting her walk away with a penny more than what's fair. She can lie all she wants, but the truth is right there in the paperwork, in the bank transfers, in the evidence I've collected. This whole ordeal has opened my eyes to who she really is. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I'll never trust her again. And I'll make damn sure she doesn't get away with destroying what we built. Betrayal runs deep, but I'm not going down without a fight. I've learned a hard lesson about trust, betrayal, and the importance of watching your back when someone you love turns out to be your biggest enemy. The legal process moved faster than I expected once I had everything documented. I got the court to issue a temporary restraining order, freezing her accounts and halting any further transfers. It was like a slap in the face for her. She thought she was clever, but I was one step ahead. I had my lawyer work around the clock, gathering all the evidence of her scheming. Bank statements, emails, texts, even security footage of her meeting with her lawyer in a private office. She thought she was so smart, but she underestimated how determined I was to stop her from stealing everything. In the meantime, I started talking to friends and family, trying to explain what was happening without giving away too much. I needed support, but I also needed to keep things discreet. I didn't want Lisa to spin her lies further or manipulate anyone into thinking I was the bad guy. The more I learned about her plans, the angrier I got. She'd been talking about leaving me, moving to some fancy place and starting fresh, without me. She'd even talked about taking the kid, making it look like I was the one causing trouble. That was the moment I realized I had to be strategic, not just reactive. I also started noticing how she was trying to control the narrative. She'd call her family, telling them I was abusive, paranoid, and that I was trying to keep her from her happiness. It made my blood boil. I knew she was trying to turn everyone against me to make herself look like the victim, but I had enough evidence to counter her lies. I gave my side of the story to my lawyer and we prepared for the court hearing. I wanted the judge to see the full picture, the truth about her deception, her betrayal, and her attempts to wipe me out financially. The hearing was intense. Lisa came in, looking smug, trying to act innocent, but I could see the desperation in her eyes. She kept insisting she was the victim, that I was just jealous and controlling. Her lawyer argued that she was entitled to her fair share because she was married to me. But the judge wasn't buying it. My lawyer laid out everything, the transfers, the emails, the evidence of her meeting with Mark. The judge granted the temporary order, freezing her assets and halting any further property transfers. It was a huge relief, but I knew this was just the beginning. The fight was far from over. After the court date, I started working with my lawyer on the divorce. I wanted to make sure I got what was fair, and more importantly, I wanted to protect my rights and assets from her sneaky plans. She'd already transferred some money into offshore accounts, but we had ways to track and recover those. Still, it was clear she'd been planning this for months. She made deals with lawyers, looked into setting up new accounts, and even tried to forge documents. She thought she was so clever, like she could just walk away with everything I worked for. Meanwhile, she was still pretending everything was fine at home. She'd come home, act like she cared, and try to manipulate me into dropping the case. She'd tell me she loved me, that she was sorry, and that she just got overwhelmed, but I saw through her. I knew her game. Every time she tried to apologize, I just looked at her and said, "You're not sorry, Lisa. You're just sorry you got caught." That shut her up pretty quick. I wasn't about to let her guilt trip me into backing down. Not this time. The hardest part was watching her try to spin her lies to everyone else. She'd call her friends, cry about how horrible I was, how I was abusive and controlling, and how she just wanted to be happy. I heard from a few people she's been telling that I was the one who was cheating, that I was violent, and that I was trying to keep her from her freedom. It made me sick. I've always been a straightforward guy, and now she was painting me as the villain. But I had the evidence and I knew the truth. I refused to let her manipulate others into thinking I was the bad guy. Honestly, I've never felt so betrayed in my life. I'm angry, yes, but also exhausted. The emotional toll of discovering her affair, watching her scheme to take everything, and fighting in court, it's a lot to handle. But I also feel a strange sense of clarity. I see her for who she really is, a selfish, manipulative woman who's willing to destroy her own family for money and freedom. I realize I wasted so much time trying to keep things together, hoping she'd change, but I was just fooling myself. The woman I married is gone, replaced by someone I don't even recognize. Now I'm focusing on rebuilding my life. The house is still in my name, and I've started moving my finances into safer accounts. I've also begun the process of divorce, and I'm determined to get a fair Settlement. I won't let her take what's rightfully mine. I've learned that trust is fragile, that people can hide their true intentions behind a pretty face, and that sometimes you have to fight to protect yourself. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know one thing. I will never let anyone manipulate or betray me like this again. I've been through hell, but I'm still standing, and I plan to come out stronger on the other side. The days that followed the court's ruling were a whirlwind. I felt a mixture of relief and rage. Lisa was furious, of course. She threw her tantrums, yelling about how I was ruining her life, how unfair everything was. She kept insisting she was the victim, that I was just jealous and controlling. But I wasn't buying her act anymore. I knew her game. She was angry because her plans were falling apart and she was losing control over the money she thought she could steal from me. I moved out of the house temporarily just to get some space and breathe. I didn't want to be around her when she was acting like a lunatic. I stayed with a friend trying to piece my head together. Every night I'd go over all the evidence in my head, her emails, the bank transfers, her secret meetings. It was clear she'd been planning this for months. She'd been sneaking around, lying, manipulating everyone she knew. And now she was trying to spin it so she looked innocent. The most frustrating part was how she kept trying to manipulate our kid, making it seem like I was the bad guy. She told her that I was mean, that I didn't love her anymore. She even tried to turn her against me by saying I was trying to take her away or being too strict. It was heartbreaking to see her do that, but I knew I had to stay strong. I couldn't let her control the narrative with our child, not after everything she'd done. I made sure to keep everything documented, texts, emails, everything, to prove I was trying to be a good dad, even if she was trying to poison her mind against me. Meanwhile, I was also working with my lawyer to prepare for the next phase, full divorce proceedings. We're fighting to get a fair split of assets, and I'm pushing to make sure she can't hide or transfer any more money. She's still trying to set up accounts in her sister's name, but we've got eyes on everything now. I've also started gathering evidence of her ongoing transfers, just in case she tries to pull another stunt. I refuse to let her get away with this. I want her to see that I'm serious about protecting what's mine. Honestly, the emotional toll has been brutal. One day, I'm furious, ready to burn everything down. The next, I feel numb, like I've lost part of myself. I keep replaying that moment in court when the judge granted the order, how I finally felt like I had some control back. But the betrayal still stings. She's been lying to my face for so long, pretending to be the loving wife while secretly planning to run away with my money and our house. It's like I was living in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. What's worse is how she's trying to paint herself as the victim to everyone. She's calling her friends, crying about how bad I am, how I'm abusive and controlling, to justify her actions. I've heard from a few mutual friends that she's spinning her story, making me out to be some monster, but I have the proof. I have the bank statements, the emails, the witness accounts. I know she's lying, and I refuse to let her manipulate everyone's perception of me. I want the truth to come out, even if it takes time. There's this strange feeling of betrayal mixed with determination. I used to think marriage was about trust, about building a life together. But now I see how fragile that trust was, how easily it can be shattered by lies, greed, and selfishness. I realize I wasted so much time trying to fix what was broken, when in reality, she was the one breaking it all along. I've learned that sometimes you have to cut your losses and fight for what's rightfully yours. I want her to know she won't get away with this. I want to rebuild my life, piece by piece, and move on from the woman who turned out to be someone I never really knew. Moving forward, I plan to focus on myself and my kid. I want to give us a fresh start, one where honesty and integrity matter. I've started therapy to deal with the emotional fallout, and I'm making changes to safeguard my finances. I've learned the importance of vigilance, of not ignoring the warning signs. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I'll never let anyone betray me like this again. I'll rebuild, I'll recover, and I'll come out stronger. Because, at the end of the day, the only person who truly has my back is me. And I refuse to let her or anyone else take that away from me. The whole experience has changed me in ways I never expected. I used to believe in happily ever after, in loyalty, in the idea that marriage was about trust and partnership. Now, I see how fragile that can be, how quickly it can all fall apart when someone is willing to betray everything you stand for. I've learned that sometimes the hardest lessons come from the people you trust the most. Lisa's betrayal has left scars, but it's also made me more cautious, more aware of the red flags I once ignored. In the end, I managed to keep what's rightfully mine: the house, my savings, my dignity. The legal battle was exhausting, but I fought for it and I won. I've realized that sometimes the only way to deal with a liar and a manipulator is to stand your ground and fight back with everything you've got. I don't regret uncovering her lies, even if it hurt like hell. It's better to face the truth than live in a lie, and I'm proud I didn't let her get away with destroying what I worked so hard to build. The hardest part now is moving on. I still feel the sting of betrayal, the anger that she could do this to us, to our family. But I also feel a strange sense of relief. I'm finally free from her manipulations, free from the lies. I can start rebuilding my life, one step at a time. I've already begun therapy, focusing on healing myself emotionally. I've cut ties with her family, who were too blind or too complicit to see what she was really doing. I've learned to trust my instincts again. No more ignoring the signs. No more turning a blind eye to red flags. Looking back, I realize how much I overlooked. How many times I dismissed my gut feelings because I wanted leave the best. But now I see things clearly. I see her for who she truly was, a selfish woman who used her charm and her lies to manipulate her way into my life, and then tried to steal everything I had. And I see myself, too, stronger than I thought, capable of standing up and fighting for what's mine. That's a lesson I won't forget. As I move forward, I'm focusing on my kid. I want to give him a life built on honesty, integrity, and love, things she tried to destroy with her deceit. I want to be a better man, someone who doesn't ignore the warning signs and who fights for what's right. I know I'll never fully forget what happened, but I will learn from it. I will grow stronger, wiser, and more cautious. Because in the end, betrayal teaches you what really matters: trust, loyalty, and standing up for yourself. So that's my story. It's been a brutal ride, but I'm still here. I'm still standing. And I'm finally ready to close this chapter knowing I fought for myself and for what's right. I hope anyone reading this, who's going through something similar, finds the strength to do the same. Because no matter how deep the betrayal, no matter how broken you feel, there's always a way to pick up the pieces, if you're willing to fight for it.